Hey money makers and wheel shakers, I'm Nick and welcome to another episode of Nick Fuels. On today's episode, I want to talk to the enthusiast. Maybe you've just come into a little bit of money and you're ready to buy a sports car. And if you're like me, you don't have unlimited funds, but you want the experience of a supercar. So you start playing around with options and you decide, maybe I'll buy a Porsche. You walk into your local Porsche dealer and you see that a fully spec'd out Carrera S is around $139,000. Maybe even more if you get some crazy options. Well, I have an idea for you. You can spend a little bit less, you can get a lot more, and it's sitting right behind me. So this is a 2012 McLaren MP4-12C. I know it's a mouthful, but whatever, it's awesome. So McLaren and racing are really something that go together. And if you're a racing fan, you'll know the name McLaren. If you're not a racing fan, I advise you become a racing fan. Okay, enthusiasts, just like every other car on the series, I'm gonna tell you every reason why you should not buy this car. But by the end of this episode, I'm gonna tell you every reason why you need to buy this car. McLaren's been around for a while. They've built motors for race cars, they've put some engines in Mercedes, they've done partnerships, and they built one of the most incredible street cars ever, which is the McLaren F1. It's the single-seat supercar. Ralph Lauren owns one. They're like 6 or 7 million bucks now, and they're incredible. They're timeless. And in 2012, McLaren decided they were gonna get in the mix. They were gonna take on Ferrari, they were gonna take on Lamborghini, they were gonna build a better supercar than anybody's built. And they were meticulous about it. The Lamborghini and Ferraris have a lot of, I would say, personality. And what McLaren decided to do was build the best possible road-going supercar that they could make. They left out a little bit of the flair and kind of some of that sound that you get from a Ferrari and that hammer that you get from a Lambo. But what they did is they built one of the best driving cars that I've ever experienced. McLaren is like the brain surgeon of the supercar world. Meticulous about every move, and they've designed every feature in the car specifically to enjoy the driving experience. So let's talk specs. The MP4-12C is equipped with a 3.8-liter twin-turbo V8 producing 616 horsepower, and the thing only weighs 3,200 pounds. All that in a really cool package, and the thing flat out rips. What I like about the McLaren is it's extremely comfortable. It's something you could actually drive every day if you wanted. It's comfortable around corners. You can hear yourself on the phone if you need to make a phone call. And it's got all these cool modes that you could switch into that truly change the dynamics of the car. The suspension on this car is just incredible. For a 2012, to have the technology that this has is mind-blowing. You can take corners so flat, you don't even know how fast you're going. And then, when you park the car and you get out, well, guess what? The doors go up. Putting the driving experience aside, there's a lot of things about this car that I absolutely can't stand. Let's talk about the money. If you were gonna buy this car in 2012, you would have had to spend, well, the MSRP started around $250,000, but with any of these auto manufacturers, you start putting options in there with, seats, and all of a sudden you're at 300K. And these cars dump. They lose their ass completely. This is not a car for a collector. This is not a car for an investor. This is a car that an enthusiast will buy because they want the value of a supercar for a reasonable market price. The thing you have to be concerned about with these cars isn't necessarily that you can buy this car right now for $120,000 to $130,000. It's that the oil changes are $2,500 from McLaren. There's other weird things about this car that I can't stand. If you get in, the tech is just so hard to understand. You really have to, this is probably the first car I've actually had to flip through the manual book because it's so counterintuitive. The doors have this sliding hand feature that kind of, you have to almost stroke the door to open, and you have to have the key in your pocket. If the key's in the car, it doesn't like it, it won't react. It's just awful. The driving settings, when you have to switch from You have to open up the sport mode, click it over, and you can kind of play with the settings. In my opinion, it should just be regular sport track, but whatever. A couple other quirks that turn me off to this car compared to other supercars. One of them is the sound. It sounds good. It's not that distinct. There's something engineered about the sound of a Ferrari, and there's no questioning when you hear a Lamborghini V12 roll down the road. This car sounds good. It sounds like a really well-made V8, but it's not that distinguishable. It just sounds good. The car also just has these paddles, and they move with the steering wheel, which I just can't understand. With McLaren engineering almost everything about this car to fit the driving experience and how the driver inputs with the car, why would you have the steering wheel turn with the paddles? I mean, I don't know about you, but if I'm heading into a corner and I want to downshift or hairpin it, whatever I may be doing, I don't want to think about where the paddle is in the range of motion on the steering wheel. But I'm not a professional driver, and you guys can chime in and let me know what you think. Lastly, this car was designed to be driven in almost any condition short of off-road. You can drive this car in the rain and have a really good time. The suspension management system is absolutely amazing. You can not kill yourself and go around corners pretty quickly in wet weather. But it's getting into the car in wet weather that's just weird. If you open the driver door, just unlock the car, the driver window automatically goes down. So yesterday, I went to go open the car, it was raining, and the window goes down. No big deal, right? You just open the door and it's only a few seconds. Well, how about when your hands are wet and you try to get the door open, your hands are sliding, the sensor doesn't operate, the entire interior got soaked. I'm just saying, for some of the most brilliant engineers that are capable of designing a road-going supercar like this, they missed a few things. Now, these are all things I can deal with at 120 grand, but they make absolutely no sense when you're spending $300,000 on a car. I think I've made it pretty clear by now that this car is not for the investor. It's not a collector car, and it's not going up in value. However, it is an investable experience and a great value. So like every other car on this series, this car with only 2,800 miles is for sale. If you want to buy this car, hit me up and just click the link below. And if you have a car to sell, hit me up. Maybe I'll feature it on the series, maybe I'll buy it. Until next time, I'm Nick, and this is Nick Fueled.